All right, so yeah, I'm Jonas. I'm the training manager at Maxon. And today I want to introduce you to a couple of visual effects workflows that are very easy when you use Maxon One and especially in combination with After Effects. So let me just go to the next one here. Our mission at Maxon is to create superior tools for artists. And there are a couple of things that we want to make sure, which are that artists and creative teams can focus on their creativity, that they can save time in the production process while still leveling up the results, so better results in less time, and also staying flexible. And the best thing is if you are flexible until the very end of the project. All right, so let me go to this one because I'm going to show you a couple of workflows based on a project that I once created. And this here is the project. So it's two shots. One is just a scan of a coin, and the next one is then bringing that person on the coin into a hologram, interacting with it. So you can see a lot of things happening here. So the coin is made in ZBrush and Cinema 4D. Then the scanning effect and the compositing effects are, of course, Red Giant, the rendering of the coin here, that is Redshift. And yeah, I'm using the whole pipeline. As you can see here, this is my pipeline. So actually starting inside of Cinema 4D, but going back and forth with ZBrush, and then from Cinema 4D, render using Redshift, and then from Redshift using the renders in Red Giant to combine, or in After Effects using Red Giant to combine live action elements with 3D elements. All right, so let me focus first on integration. So for us, it's important to make our products talk to each other, especially Cinema 4D and ZBrush, because both are 3D applications, right? So there is seamless integration. And I want to show you the Go Z bridge, which you can use to bring your assets from Cinema 4D to ZBrush and from ZBrush back into Cinema 4D. All right, so let me just jump into Cinema 4D here. And this is my scene, right? So basically, I want to create a coin first. So you know that there is this kind of relief on coins. And basically, when I go to my front view here, you can see that this is what I later want to have on the coin, right? But it's still, multiple objects here. And yeah, the best way of doing that, like bringing everything onto the coin and then bake it as displacement or normals and so on, is ZBrush. So what I can do is I can bring this over to ZBrush. And the way you would do that is just by selecting everything you want to bring over. And just give me a second. There is a zoom overlay here. Okay. And then you go to Extensions, go ZBrush, and go Z Exporter. And what's going to happen when I press this is it's going to open up ZBrush. And maybe let me also add this one here. And then here, we can just create our Cinema 4D creation as a tool. We need to press Edit, and now we have the same thing in here. All right, I'm going to Alt-click the coin and press F 2 times so that it's framing this. And what I want to do is I want to, as I said, bring everything, all these elements onto the coin here. So I'm going to start this process by creating a morph target that is important for later. I'm going to come back to this. Basically, what this is doing is it's going to store the current state of the coin. And then the next thing is I'm going to go to geometry and just subdivide, right? Because ZBrush is very good at creating a ton of detail. So as you know, yeah, most of the characters in blockbuster movies or in triple A games are have been created using ZBrush, and that includes Lord of the Rings, Avatar, and such. So I'm going to use ZBrush for this coin. So I'm going to go back to the subtools here, subtools palette, and then here there is this project bas-relief button that I can press, and this is basically everything you need to do. What this will do is it's going to project every object that you have in the scene onto the object that is selected. And now when I go, when I move the camera to the side, you can see that this already worked. So let me just go to that coin and only show the coin. So this is what we have now. Cool. The thing is, and this is why we needed the morph target, now the whole thing has been displaced, so it's not the original shape anymore. Okay, so let me adjust this a little bit, bring it back like so. And we could bring this back into Cinema 4D as is now. This would give us like a ton of geometry, of course, but we can also bring over textures and stuff from ZBrush. So let's create a couple of textures. The first thing I'm going to create is like a little texture for parts that might be dirty on a coin, like those little cavities from the hair and so on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a mask, mask by cavity here, right? And this is going to give me a mask like that. I can refine this later in Cinema 4D and Redshift. I'm going to leave it as is for now. And then I'm going to go to the texture map, and I'm just going to create a new texture from the masking. And now it created this texture for me. And this can be used in Cinema 4D and Redshift then later to create a nice little model. All right, next step for me is to create a displacement map, because I don't want to bring over all this geometry. I want to bake this into a texture map. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the geometry, bring down the subdivisions, right? And now you can still see, although I brought them down, now you can see that this geometry is still a little bit displaced. Like from the side, you can see that there are little bumps and so on. And this is why we created the morph target. So in the morph target, I can just switch that back to the original one. And now when I create a displacement map, I can create that in a very clean fashion. So let me go to displacement map. And if I just hit create displacement map, it will just use the high detail state and bake it down to the level of detail that we have currently. And I'm just going to hit this, right? And now you can see we've got a displacement map. So this is my displacement map, and you can see that it's nice and clean. All right, let's do the same thing with a normal map. It's also going to bake high details into low details. And yeah, we can just create this normal map in tangent mode, and this would be the normal map, right? So we have three maps: a texture map, a displacement map, and a normal map. And now the next thing we want to do is we want to bring this back into Cinema 4D. Now, I can use these Go Z buttons up here. I'm just going to switch to Cinema 4D quickly and create a new project, because Go Z is automatically going to bring the sculpt into the open project inside of Cinema 4D. So let me just bring over the visible ones, which should be the coin only. And here you can see that it's there already. So by now it just looks like a plane, right? But it's also coming with a material. And if I double click the material, you can see that the Go Z bridge even created a whole node tree for me. And here you can see that we have the texture, the diffuse color in here. We have the bump map, or the normal map, and we have the displacement map, right? Actually, we don't need the bump for this one here. So let me just delete it. And now what you can see is basically that we can see the texture here. So let me bring up the metalness in this one, right? So now we have a metalness material. Okay, if we render this, you will see that we cannot see a lot because we're just using the default lighting and there's no reflection environment here. So this is stuff that we need to build now. And for that, I'm going to quickly jump back into the keynote and go to the next one. So as you see, and as I showed you before, the software pipeline is Cinema 4D with ZBrush together and then going Redshift and Red Giant. But one thing that I haven't mentioned yet is a pretty important part of the whole process as well, which is capsules. So basically, the question is, what are capsules, right? And here on the next slide, I'm answering that question. You can already get an idea on the left side here on the image. We are providing assets that are coming with your Cinema 4D or Maxon One or Red Giant or Redshift subscriptions. And yeah, these are high quality assets that you can use for your projects, which is great because also these are licensed, right? So there are absolutely no legal problems with these. So you can just use them. They are ready to be used. All right, so capsules can be objects, it can be materials, it can be textures, it can be whole Cinema 4D scenes, for example. It can be presets, not just for Cinema 4D, but also inside of Red Giant, like Particular and yeah, and other plugins, and also templates for Maxon Studio, for example. So the question, why capsules, can actually be answered pretty quickly. Usually you have a starting point and a finishing line whenever you start a project or whenever you're working on a project. And with capsules, because they are presets and stuff that you can already use, you move the starting point closer to the finish line. And that means you save time, right? So you don't have to create every material from scratch because there's a whole material library. You don't need to go to the internet and search for textures like HDR textures, because we have them inside of the Cinema 4D asset browser. And let me just jump back to Cinema 4D and show this to you. So I'm going to open up the asset browser here. This is where you can find the Cinema 4D assets. And there is a ton of stuff. Of course, we have material libraries. So here you can see there's a ton of stuff, hundreds of materials that you can use. Example scenes, HDR eyes. This is what I need right now. So we're going to go with interior HDR eyes. I'm going to have a look here. Let's just go with this one. I'm just going to drag and drop it into the object manager here inside of Cinema 4D. And what will happen is that it will create a dome light and assign this texture to it, right? And now we can close this asset browser and render again, and suddenly you can see that there is something because there's a reflection environment, and this this whole HDRI is being used to light the scene. Okay, first let me go to the details and let's make sure that we set the camera contribution to 0. This way we will not be distracted by the background. And now still let's rotate it so that we can see where the light is, because what I want to have is something like, let's say, this situation here where we have a little bit of a rim light here on this side, right? So we can go with this one, and then let's just add another light here from the area lights. And let's just bring this up to 100. Let's rotate it in to the side and zoom out a little bit. This needs to be up here and bigger, of course. And now we are here with some interesting lighting where we have a little bit of a rim here, but a clear light direction from this side. And this is actually the real life scenario from the video that I shot there, where I had a big window in the back and one window here on the left. Okay, and now let's make this more beautiful by adjusting the material. Again, for this, we need a couple of things. So first of all, let me just bring up the node editor here, and let's make it a little bit smaller. Like so. Maybe we can even make this smaller so that we can see it better. Okay. So here, what we can do is we can use this node-based material system to create very flexible changes. So for example, we could just add a ramp to recolorize the texture that we have in here. So we could, for example, say, okay, the black values shouldn't be black, but more in the grayish area, and the white ones should also be a little bit darker. And suddenly we're getting a whole different experience here, where we can also see better what's happening, because there is a little more life on here. So the next thing I'm going to add is some variation here, because this is looking boring and not realistic at all. So I'm just going to open up the asset browser, and I'm going to search for an imperfection map, like fingerprints. And here you can see a couple of those fingerprint textures that we can use. And I'm just going to add one of those and just drive the reflection roughness with it. And now here you can already see the impact this has, right? So some of these areas are now like darker and some are lighter, but this is all down to the reflection roughness. So now, of course, I can use another ramp and fine-tune this. I'm just gonna quickly do that. Let me just bring this in a little bit, or maybe this one. And let's make sure that the other one is a little bit lighter. So the lighter something is, the more rough it is as well. And this one actually we can bring down like so. And suddenly you can see that we have a lot of variation on here. And another thing you would typically add are scratches, and I would add them to the bump. And let me just search for scratches, and go with, let's say, this scratch map here. I'm just gonna drag and drop that in here. Maybe let's solo it so that we can see better where the scratches are. And this is what the scratch pattern looks like. Okay. And I'm just going to double click here again, create a bump node, and link these up, right? And suddenly you will see that there is a lot of bump going on, and this is really a lot. So each and every bump here would be like 1 centimeter big. So let me just bring this down to something like 1/10 of a millimeter. So now you can see that there are scratches, right? But they are not too crazy. And now we can still adjust a couple of things like the light, like here, so that we can get a little bit of that rim lighting back, or this one is also not bad, right? Something like that, where we have a lot of contrast. We can fine-tune this more and more. I just wanted to show you the texturing process that includes the assets from the asset browser. The next thing we might need for compositing, and I was talking about flexibility earlier, is like separate passes for, let's say, the lighting that we have right now, and something like a laser light that I used in the original shot. So let me create the light first. Just gonna do that. And I'm gonna make this a lot smaller, let's say 10 by 10. And I'm also going to set this to disk. gonna move it out a little bit. And of course, we also need to rotate it because it's only emitting light in one direction. And it looks like we need way more intensity, like so. And we can also make this like bluish. And now we have a light that we can animate and move to the right and to the left based on that, laser pointer object in the footage, right? But now let's say we would be adding a lens flare onto the light source, and we need that to flicker in line with the reflection. We would do that in compositing, and that's why we need this light, this laser light, to be separated from the rest of the lights, to be flexible until the very end. So what I'm going to do is, in the light, I'm going to go to the Details tab, and here you can add an AOV light group. And I'm just going to create a new one, and I'm going to call this Laser. And now that this light is on a light group, we can render it separately, which is fantastic. Everything we need to do in order to do so is we go to Redshift AOV Manager, and here you can create different passes for various aspects of the scene, like beauty would be the whole image, right? But we can also go to reflections and only have a pass for reflections, another one for the refractions. We can add object mattes, material mattes, and so on. But this beauty layer has a couple of things to it that are quite interesting. And in this case, it's the light group's behavior. So we can just tick the laser, right? So the laser is going to be rendered onto a separate pass. Now the global AOV, like the overall image, still would have all lights on them. So what we can do here, we can either tell it to be none or only use the remainder lights, which means that there's one light pass for the laser and one for all the other lights. And this is what we have now. Okay. And when I have a look at the Redshift AOVs now, you can see that this is my other, right? So the lights without the laser, and this one is the laser only. And now when I render these using multipass rendering, then you would get separate passes for these. So let me jump into After Effects and just show you what these are looking like. We go into After Effects, and then here under coin, you can see that this one here, this is the pass for the for all the other lights, for the ambient lights, and this one was my pass for the laser light. And then afterwards, I was able to comp them together with the lens flare. Let me just quickly check the keynote. Yeah, we were talking about the flexibility. And here is a breakdown of this first shot. So you can see that this was consisting of several different elements. So we start again. This is the original coin. Then this is the coin I added, including color correction. Then here you saw the laser being added, the laser reflection and the wireframe. Here I masked it, added a couple of more elements here. Then used an effect from Red Giant Universe that I'm going to show in a second again. A reflection here on the left. And then lens flare, of course. And now if you look at it again, you can see that this is actually also flickering in sync. All right, so the next shot is this one here. And I'm gonna drive you through the process of creating that. It's also pretty fun one. So let me just go into After Effects again. And in this case, let me just start with this one. So here we are in After Effects, and we're going to use Regine plugins to create that shot. Okay, so live action element number one. So you can see there is one hand and then there's nothing, right? Then we have a second one, a second hand that we're going to add here. And as you can see, it's green screen footage. I'm going to place that here. And yeah, let me just create a little garbage mat here, like so. And then key the rest. As you can see, this video is not the best quality, but you can see, you will be able to see what our keying tools can do with this. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Effect, Regined VFX. So everything that has Regined here as a prefix or RG is a Regined plugin. And by now, there are, I think, 138 plugins for After Effects. I'm going to use Primate Keyer. And I really love this keying tool because of multiple things. Well, first, you can create pretty fast keys with it. It's pretty accurate and it's very easy to use. So if you have like better footage than this one here, you could just go with auto-define key, and most of the time you would even be more than halfway there already. So, but I'm going to show you the whole workflow. So there are these three tools here. The first one is defining the background color. So now you can see that I just defined what green is, but you can also see that a lot of things just turned transparent. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the view options and choose matte instead, because now I can see with a black and white image what is supposed to be transparent and what is supposed to be opaque here. And the cool thing is that now with these two tools, I can clean up the background and the foreground. So this is the clean background tool. So with this one, I can just, yeah, have a look at the background, see where it's not black, and add more samples to it. Like here, for example, there's also a lot here. There's more. And then, of course, here. And you can see that it's looking pretty good now. Now we need to make sure that everything that is the hand is actually white. So I'm going to use the foreground tool, and I'm just going to go through here. You can not only use the sample tool here, but you can also use a rectangle tool. So you can define a bigger chunk here. Let's just do this here, something like that, right? And let's just scrub through the timeline. Yeah, there's a little bit of stuff here and a little bit here that we need to get rid of. And up here, we definitely need to get rid of this. Okay, cool. So now we have this. And of course, we can fine tune that even more. But let me just go back to the composition. So now we have this, right? The next step for me usually is to play with the matte. So we're going to blur the matte a little bit and also shrink it a little bit so that you get rid of the, let's say, most important green areas around the actual hero object. And then if you've done this, you just enable the spill killer here, and this will get rid of more of the green, right? So here you can see there's still green in it. Now there is less green. So this was a pretty fast key, and the tools using them is really easy. So let me add another effect here, in this case a curves effect, and I'm just gonna make this a little bit darker, maybe add a little bit more red and a little bit more green, something like that. Maybe let's see what we can do with the blues. Yeah, I think something like that is pretty close to the original color. And then what we can do here also is place it, and I'm gonna rotate it in just a little bit like so. and place it somewhere around here so that we are pretty centric above this object, because this is where the hologram is coming from. Okay, cool. So let's say we're happy with this, right? My next step was to also add a lens layer then here where I'm hitting the return key, and then bringing this over to Cinema 4D so that I can place a hologram element here. So let me jump into Cinema 4D and let's go to this other scene here. And here I have this background, right? And as you can see, there's a lens flare in here, and I just animated the rotation of this object, of the 3D scan here, so that it's in line and in sync with the finger. Okay, but there are a couple of things that you can also do. One of Cinema 4D's strengths is that you can work very procedurally, but still with a lot of ease of use, right? So in this case, what I want to do is I want to create an effect that when this object is appearing, that it's going from very rough to detailed. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually animate the visibility. So let me just go here and I'm gonna set visibility to off. And then I'm gonna move on to the next frame. Let me just go back. Here we go. And here, let me just make it visible. So now we have step one. It's visible as soon as we hit the return key. And now I want to create this, go from low detail to high detail. And the way I did that was by using a volume workflow. So we have volume modeling workflows inside of Cinema 4D. And I can just create a volume builder here. Now this whole thing is like a voxel cloud. And I'm going to add a volume measure. Now it's a mesh again. But the cool thing is in the volume builder, I can adjust the quality using the voxel size. So voxels are like pixels, but in 3D space. It's a grid of data. Yeah, and I can go from very low detail to very detailed. So let me start at a voxel size of 20 centimeters, something like that. And I'm going to set a keyframe just by hitting this little button. And then a couple of frames later, like here, I'm just going to bring this down to, let's say, 1 centimeter and hit the keyframe button again. And now you can see that we're getting this effect. Right? This is pretty cool because it works with every object. All right. So now let's prepare it for rendering. And in this case, I decided to go with Cinema 4D standard renderer because I just wanted to export elements of something that, yeah, elements of the hologram visual, right? So what I basically did is I created a Fresnel material and one with lines, and then I used this for rendering. Let me just render this. It literally looks like that, right? And the lines, which are looking like that, right? And when you combine these two inside of After Effects, this is already looking pretty cool. So let me jump into After Effects. And in here, let me go to my project tab. There we go. And here you can see the footage that I rendered. Okay, so this is the Fresnel. This is the lines front, and this is the lines back. Here we go, lines back. Okay, and when I combine these, this is looking pretty cool, actually. So let me just create a new composition. and have this one in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, let's say, use the front lines, and I'm going to set the Fresnel as the track matte and make sure I'm using the luminance. And now I already have a mix of the two, which is looking pretty interesting, isn't it? Right? And I can do the same thing with the back. So let me also set the track matte and set it to alpha, to luminance. And now, just by colorizing them, we will be able to distinguish between the facing ones and the ones that are in the back to create more depth. So let me do this. I'm gonna add a tint for the foreground. And in this case, let's just go with something bluish. And then another tint for the back, like so. And this we can make a little bit purplish. So now you can see that there are like two different layers, right? One is bluish and the other one is pinkish. And maybe we can even reduce the opacity of this second one. And now you can see this is really creating this three-dimensional feeling here. So we're going from here to there. Perfect. I really like this. Okay, now let's go to the main comp and let's make sure that we add the comp here for the hologram and set the mode to add. We're going to add this. Okay, so now we have this already. Not too bad. Pressing enter, we have another hand for the reflection, for the interaction, I mean. And this is a good starting point. So the next thing is I want to make sure that this object here is somehow grounded in here. And I'm going to use a plugin from Redshift. And let me just bring up Window Extensions and Universe Dashboard, because the Universe Dashboard is a great way of exploring Redshift effects, because you can scroll through them, you can see what each and every effect is doing, even with an animated preview. And here there's one. So here you can see we could actually fine-tune the displays with progress bars, or with there are even text generators for screens and so on. So pretty cool stuff. What we're going to use is actually something like this. This caught my attention, so let's hit apply. Okay, I'm going to move the dashboard to the side, and suddenly you can see, okay, we have light streaks. They're looking cool. So far, they are pointing to the wrong direction, but as soon as I select this, this effect, I can place where this is coming from. And I'm just going to place it somewhere here. And now you can already see that it really helps grounding the object, or the hologram here, into this object. Okay, the next one that I'm going to add is an effect for stylization. So let's go to stylize, and I want to add a little bit of holomatrix. This is actually an effect that allows you to turn every sort of footage into a hologram style footage. Let me just apply this, or let me just click this first, because you can see that it's not just the plugins that you can apply here, it's also a ton of presets. Again, we had this earlier. Presets are your starting point, right? So they save you time. So I'm going to apply this one. And now you can see that we have another layer of, we have a layer of holomatrix, which is, making the hologram even more hologrammy. I don't think it's looking as good as before, so I'm going to adjust that effect. I don't need the colorization. I also don't need the glows, because I'm going to take care of these later. I actually only need the scan lines, to be honest. Let's go with the scan lines. And let me have a look here. In the scan line settings, I'm going to set the scanline distance, let's say to 3, and the scanline thickness to 3 as well. And then I get these lines here. The great thing is that I can mix this with the original, right? So this is the original, this is the new scan lines. But when I just mix the new scan lines in a tiny little bit, you can see that we're getting these lines here on the on this light streak. And this is actually what I wanted here. Okay, let's move on to the next effect, which is also from the Regiant suite. Effect, Regiant VFX, reflection. We want to create a reflection on the screen. So the reflection plugin and the shadow plugins are fantastic for implementing something into your shot or integrating something in your shot better. So reflection, the way it works is that you have this horizontal line, which is the mirror plane, and you have this down here that you can use to, move the reflection to the left or to the right. So I want the reflection to be here. So my mirror plane is actually this one here. And now I can use this one to place the reflection here. Now, this is already really cool. Also, you can adjust the opacity, of course, the softness. But one thing that I also want to show you is displacement. So what you can do, and this is actually perfect if you have something on, that is hovering over a water surface or so. Because what you can do is you can use the original footage as a displacement map, right? And then use this for displacing. And if you do the same thing with water, right, you would have the reflection react to the actual waves of the footage, which is really great. Okay, so let's just do that a little bit, just so that you can see. It doesn't make super much sense in this case here, but I just wanted to show it to you so that you have seen that you can use this for water. I'm just going to make this a little bit softer, bring down the opacity to, let's say, this. And now, I'm pretty happy already. Okay. Good. So let me have another look at the hologram. Because one thing that you could also do is you could add another element that could be tracked with the finger, something that is interacting with the hand, actually. I'm not going to go through the whole workflow because it would involve tracking and so on. But one thing that I want to show you is I'm going to create a new solid, and I'm going to call this HUD. And there is another effect, and let me just bring up the Regiant dashboard again, the universe dashboard. There we go. There is an effect under motion graphics that is called HUD components. And if you click this, you can see that there are a ton of procedural HUD components that you can use to create quick graphics. So something like the crosshair here, for example. I can just add that, right? And then I have a crosshair in my scene, right? And I can even adjust it. So in this case, I don't want this element. I also don't want this element, and also not this element. I just want to have this one here in the middle, right? We can adjust the colorization. Let's say this one is supposed to be green or so. And also, of course, a little bit smaller, like so. But the great thing is we can just procedurally create these HUD elements. And whenever you have a hologram or something science fiction like, this is a big helper. And now you can also see that it's now even part of the light effect that we created here. So let me go back. Let's remove this because this was just for showing you HUD components, because I really love this plugin. and I used it for the original shot as well. So the next thing I want to do is I want to make everything come together even more. And the way I'm going to do that is by using SuperComp. And the great thing about SuperComp, and let me make this one, let's turn this into a composition for SuperComp. And let me also add 2 more elements here. So with no layer selected, I'm just going to create 1 element here. So something like this. Okay, and we're going to place it here in the back. So I just select all of these, and then I can right click and go to Effect and Red Giant VFX SuperComp. So what SuperComp is basically it is a compositing application inside of After Effects, because After Effects by itself has a couple of well, it's lacking a little bit of compositing functionality. And with SuperComp, we are trying to close these. And one of those gaps is that inside of After Effects, layers are not aware of each other. What does that mean? So just imagine you add a glow to this element that I just created, right? Like so. And let me just crank up the amount. Let me crank up the size. And no matter how big I make it, you can see that it's, no matter what, it's still behind the hand, right? That's not realistic behavior, because actually it would bleed in front of the hand and so on. And this is what SuperComp can do. Layer glow is specifically made to keep a glow onto on a layer. But then there's optical glow, and with optical glow, you would actually get this effect of background elements bleeding in front of others. So what I'm showing you here is actually a really, really great workflow when you have green screen footage, similar to my case here, when you have green screen footage and you just want to make sure that the green screen element will be integrated into a new background in a plausible way. Okay, so as you can see, it's creating these really great glows. But actually, we don't need this layer here. So instead, I'm going to add optical glow to this layer here. And let me also make sure, well, actually, I'm pretty fine with the defaults here. I'm just going to add more color vibrance, like so. And now, as you can see, this is a little bit too much, right? You can see here it's bleeding across the finger and so on. So I'm happy with that, but it is too much. First of all, this is completely washed out now, right? But the great thing about SuperComp is that no matter what your After Effects composition is in terms of bit depth, if it's 8-bit or 16-bit or 32-bit, SuperComp will always work in 32 bits. So when I go here and change the opacity on the slider here, you can see that this detail is coming back, right? And this is only possible because of 32 bits. Okay, so let's say we are happy with this. Then I'm going to go to the next thing, and that is light wraps. Creating a light wrap in vanilla After Effects is pretty complicated because you need to make pre-comps and stuff to make a really good light wrap. But here, inside of SuperComp, you literally just click this plus button, and then you go to light wrap, and let me just overdo it a lot. Now you can see that we have this light wrap here. So this is without, this is including the light wrap. You can also see it here. As I said, it's way too much. Let's bring it down again. So another thing that works really great, and this is also just for showing you, because this scene is actually not the best for this, but let me just add some fire to this composition. And let me go to Supercomp, and let's just add the old element and this one again. And this is now just for testing purposes. So this there's no motivation to make this look realistic. Let me just, but I just want to show you what Supercomp can do here. So again, let me add optical glow here so that it looks a little bit more interesting. And the fire we're going to set to additive. And again, presets. Presets are your way to go to speed up your workflows, right? And here in presets with additive layers, you can change that to big fire, for example. And now you can see that it's looking, well, first, it's looking way better. But also what's great is that we're having this heat distortion. Let me just bring this one over here to this side. So if I play this back, you can see that the fire is actually distorting the background as well. And you can see that pretty well here with this light streak. So there are a couple of things that Supercomp is adding that are really fantastic. And fire is usually a pretty hard thing to compose into a shot because of heat distortion and glow and so on. But Supercomp will just do all of that for you. Okay, and pretty quickly. So here we go. There are two more things that I want to show you here. Because one thing that is still missing is the lens flare. Let me add that. So I'm going to go to my effect controls, and I'm also going to create a new flare solid, like so. This is my lens flare solid. I'm just going to right click, go to Giant VFX, and create real lens flares. So real lens flares is a lens flare plugin, of course, right? So you can do all these cool things with it. The interesting thing about real lens flares is that this is actually ray tracing real lenses. So if I open the designer here, you can see that, of course, we have all these elements that we can add or remove. But you can also go into the whole optics system here, to this one, let's say, and adjust the rare coding, for example. And as we do that, lens flare or flare elements will adjust their color, right? And we can literally adjust every single one of these. Also, again, we have presets here. So let me just go with this one. And in this case, let's just confirm, because we are kind of running out of time. And let's set this to add, and I'm going to place the lens flare right here. And let's say we only need 10% brightness. Now, one thing that is important here is that the lens flare itself, this element here, needs to be on top of everything because it's a lens effect, right? But then still there are situations like here where a foreground element would actually obscure the lens flare or the light source. And let me just go to obscuration, because here we can define the obscuration layer. In this case, I want to use the hand as obscuration layer. And instead of using the luminance, I want to use the alpha. And now you can see that the flare is behind the hand when it's here, right? But also it is in front of the hand as soon as the light source is visible again. And here's another thing about real lens flares that I really like. Let me just create a new comp quickly, like so. And let me add the control. Oh, let me add more strength here. And let's create a little shape like so. one with a spike here. Something like that. All right. So we have this. Actually, let me adjust the color. Again, there's a little overlay from Zoom here. Okay, fill, that's okay. Color, let me go with this. Okay, so this is my obscuration layer. It needs to be pre-comped. But now when I set this as obscuration layer and use the alpha again, and now I move this behind here, you can see two things. So let me just move it here to the tip, right? One thing you can see here is that actually this tip is now in all the lens flare elements. So this is realistic behavior, right? So this is what actually would happen, right? And as soon as I move along this this streak here, you can see how this is changing on the flare elements. And then there is this case here. Let me just go here. And I really like this because what's happening here is that we are getting two flares. So one here and one on this side. And this is something only real lens flares can do. That you have one light source and it will appear on like different sides of the obscuring layer. Okay, let's go back. Let me show you the last thing here on my agenda. I'm just going to create an adjustment layer, and this is for color correction, and I'm going to use Magic Bullet Looks for that. So let me right click, go to Red Giant Color, and use Magic Bullet Looks. Because what Magic Bullet Looks does is, yeah, we open this this looks window, and again, you can choose from a ton of presets for your look, right? In this case, I'm just going to go with Cool, Blockbuster, and go with maybe Kruger. You can see what these presets are made of and even adjust. So let me just adjust the vignette here, or add another tool that could be chromatic aberration, like so. Right now we have a little bit of chromatic aberration in it as well. And now let's just say we want to apply this, and maybe not so strong, but maybe somewhere around here to make this shot like really work. Okay. So the great thing about looks is that with every look that you create, you can save that as a preset, right? When you click here, you can save it as your own preset. And Magic Bullet Looks is available for multiple host applications, right? It's not just After Effects. It's also inside of Cinema 4D, inside of Unreal. It is in Premiere, in Avid Media Composer, in the old versions of Final Cut, right? And if you create a preset here in After Effects, you would immediately be able to use it in all the other applications as well. So it would show up here under your custom looks. Right. So yeah, this is like a really quick overview of tools you can use in a visual effects context. Yeah, let me just jump back to the keynote here. And yeah, there were a couple of things that we can now skip. And here is a breakdown of the last of this shot that we were just working on. So as you can see, pretty much everything that we did now were covered here. And again, so we want to create tools that allow you to focus on your creativity, to save time through presets, through the capsules and so on, and still leveling up the results. As you saw, like SuperComp, real lens layers, these are fantastic examples of exactly that, and stay flexible until the end. I showed that to you by introducing that light group workflow inside of Redshift, so that you're flexible inside of compositing. But there are a ton more examples how you could use and how you could set up your renders to be flexible later in compositing. All right, I think we should open the floor for questions now. Here's the final project again. Yeah, let's open up the floor for questions. I'm just quickly gonna stop the screen share so that I can actually see what is in here. So do we have any questions? You can write them in the chat. Don't be shy. Oh, thank you, Peter. Peter wrote that he really appreciates all this and that the session was great. Thank you very much. All right, just think about a couple of things that you can ask. So yeah, one thing that is really important to understand is that everything Red Giant is not only available for After Effects, but if you have Red Giant and let's say you're using a combination of After Effects and Premiere, you can also use everything, all the universe plugins inside of Red Giant in Premiere as well. And these are more than 100 actually. Also, if you're using Resolve, we just had a release and we introduced viewport handles for Resolve and brought more plugins over. Yeah.
Okay, so if there are no other questions, then I would like to thank you, Jonas, very much for sharing your knowledge on this topic in such an engaging way. The entire Maxon After Effects workflow that you just shown is really fantastic, and I'm sure it will be very, very helpful to everyone who does compositing project or 3D or video projects. And all the presentation was very well structured and informative. So thank you very much again. Let's see if there.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
It was a pleasure. Thank you very much. And let's see if there are any other questions on the chat.
Well, it seems like my explanations were pretty clear. People are asking about the next webinars.
Yes, I hope
that is a good sign.
but that's also connected with the next topics that we will propose. So I think that you should stay tuned, and we will definitely send you information if there will be any new topics that we would like to present you. Yep, everything was pretty clear. So if any of you are interested in getting access to those tools, then please contact us, IT Media. Please check our website, sklep.itmedia.pl. Contact us if you have any questions, and we would like to show you all those tools and also help you in onboarding with these tools. So if there are no any other questions, then again, thank you very much for your time, and thank you everybody for attending our webinar. This is recorded and it will be sent to all of you who attended the meeting, and also to all the people who registered, because there were many more people who registered on the webinar, and they will have availability to see the webinar later. So thank you again very much for your time.
Thank you all. And thanks for having me.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.